Hello everybody, and welcome to a really long, stupid video. Don't worry, I'll get to that in a minute, where we're going to talk about The Force Awakens, and I have Six with me, and Garrick.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up?
Cool, so like I said, this might be a very long video, but I'm giving you your warning ahead of time that we're just going to blab on about The Force Awakens, so that means this is going to be filled with spoilers, and this is your time to leave. You have roughly 30 seconds to get out of here.
Spoilers. Like,
yeah, you do not want to be
not
here.
even just regular spoilers. Like, it'll spoil other stuff, like unrelated genres.
Like other movies.
Yeah, like
exactly.
It'll ruin like Lord of the Rings for you. Just take it easy and come back when you see the movie.
Just get out of here. Okay, so you have about 30 seconds to get out of here before you're good. But we don't often talk about media outside of video games. However, I think that, and we'll talk about this later at the end, but I think we're entering a new dawn for Star Wars. Everything's changing. We're getting a lot of new stuff because of Disney, and it's good stuff too. But I think because of that, we're likely to get some really, really good Star Wars games set in this timeline with The Force Awakens and everything. So I think it's the perfect time to start talking about Star Wars stuff. And who better to have with us than two guys who mildly enjoy Star Wars with the one guy who really does enjoy Star Wars, like, a lot.
Mildly.
Right?
Mildly. I like it sufficiently.
Yeah, you guys provide different perspectives to me.
We're kind of like the whole spectrum. You're like the hardcore nerd.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy who's like still pretty into it, but and then Six Pounder.
And I don't know anything.
Yeah, exactly. Literally knows nothing.
And this nerd.
Who's Luke?
What's the Force? It doesn't work that way.
Anakin Skywalker?
Danikin.
Danica?
Oh, okay. So we're going to be answering some important questions in this through what I call informed speculation. So there's no hard evidence here. So if there's anything that is wrong, then we're good. Exactly. Guessing. It's just, if there's probably going to be some wrong stuff, and you're going to have to forgive us for it. So the obvious questions to ask, and by the way, you should have turned off by now. So here comes the spoilers. Who is Rey? Where's Luke been? And why did he leave? And then we're going to do some more obscure questions, like who is Snoke, the Supreme Leader Snoke? Who is, or how is Kylo able to be defeated at the end of the movie? And what exactly was the awakening in the title, The Force Awakens, and that kind of stuff. So just to get us started briefly, in a list from, like all 7 movies, where do you guys think The Force Awakens falls for you guys? I'll start. For me, it's the best of all 7 movies that are out currently. That's just the way that I feel. Mostly because it modernizes the franchise. It feels like a passing of the torch to a new generation, and I think Disney did exactly what they needed to do by regaining the trust of old Star Wars fans by making an excellent movie, and then gaining the attention of a new Star Wars audience, which is really important for them. And that's evident by all the broken records and anything. What, Six, where's it on your list?
See, I still rate Return of the Jedi as my favorite. That's my number one. So I rate it kind of somewhere between episodes 4 and 5, like somewhere in there.
Okay,
I would say. What about you, Ox?
You can't ask me that question right now. I honestly am always like attached to Empire and Jedi.
I know you're partial to that.
Yeah, a whole lot. But this one, like, did a whole lot of things correctly.
It did, didn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I would definitely put it up there with Empire and Jedi easily.
Yeah.
It's
close. It's close to Jedi.
The lightsaber fight Jedi is so good. It's up there with it, easily one of the best in the series so far.
Okay, good cop-out answer.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared with the total rankings. I wasn't ready.
No, that's cool. I wanted you to not be ready, which is why I didn't tell you about it beforehand.
Yeah, also, his name is Snoke. I've been calling him Smoke this whole time.
Oh, gosh, this guy. So,
I thought
if it isn't evident... Oh my gosh. Toasty!
Oh no.
If it isn't evident already, this is going to be more of like a podcast thing, just so people are very clear on this. And we're going to have images.
We didn't play this.
No, we're going to have images in the background. So some of them may be potato quality, but that's just the way it's going to work. So let's start with what I believe is the most important part to talk about in the movie, which is the very first scene, because it sets up the rest of the movie, and it's easily the thing that has set up this next part of the trilogy, so these next 3 movies, which is, it does the credit things. In that, we learn that Luke Skywalker is missing. It's like the first thing it says, it's Luke Skywalker is missing. There's things that they haven't told you, but they kind of expect you to know going into the movie, because it's readily available information if you read any of the stuff that they put out beforehand, which is that there's a new organization called the First Order, and it has risen up due to the demilitarization, that's hard to say, of the Republic. If you remember correctly, in episodes 2 and 3, you have Palpatine kind of coming into power, and one of the things he does is he manipulates the Republic Senate to give him a ton of military power in order to, basically get the things done that he wants to get done. And they totally give it to him, but he's the emperor, and it's bad. Well, at the end of, because I know you guys haven't read Awakening, right?
No, I have not.
No.
Okay, so that book is really, really good, and I highly suggest it to everybody. But basically what happens is it takes place right after episode 6, and what happens is you basically get to see the end of that era, where the Republic pushes the Republic fleet, or the Rebel fleet, which becomes the New Republic fleet. So the New Republic pushes the Empire back to the shadows of like the galaxies and stuff. And they push them back far enough that they're comfortable enough with revoking the power given to whoever the senator is that's kind of controlling everything. And what they do instead is they take their military down to about 90% of its capability, so that they have 10% of it left to do Republic stuff with. And what they do instead is they train up all of the planets within the Republic to have a small militia, so they can kind of fight their own wars if they need to. And what happens is, because of the demilitarization of the New Republic, the First Order comes about, which are kind of the shadows of the Empire, little bits and pieces and fragments of the Empire, led by Supreme Leader Snoke. And they are way smaller than what the Empire was, but they're way more zealot-like. They're willing to kind of die for their cause a lot more than the previous Empire. And
space helmets for everybody. British accents, as far as the eye
Doc
can see.
helmet.
But what happens is, because the planets have their own militia, General Organa, who is Princess Leia, comes through and helps. Yeah, this is the spoiler cast of castiness, basically. Anything spoilered is going to get... Oh, by the way, Dumbledore dies. So General Organa comes through.
There's one person out there who got totally screwed by that.
Look, we warned him at the beginning that other things are going to get spoiled.
Oh my god. We made the prophecy come true. I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, thanks. She comes through and she helps form a resistance and leads a resistance of these small militias to counteract the First Order, because the Republic is doing its bureaucracy thing where it's trying to vote on things and they can't quite take care of them. So both organizations are now searching for Luke Skywalker. And both organizations have learned that a guy named Lor San Tekka, which if you guys saw the movie for the first time, you probably were like, man, he's really familiar.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, he's not a character that we've ever met in the Star Wars universe. He's made for this movie. However, he's the guy who teaches you how to Fusra Da in Skyrim, because he's the main Greybeard. So it's his voice that everybody recognizes.
I know him.
Yeah, he's like, damn it, who is this guy? I know him. That's who he is. But his character, we know from the Visual Dictionary, which is a book that they put out for The Force Awakens that has like all of this really cool information that like breaks down like lightsaber building and everything. It says in there, and I linked you guys a wiki, so if you want to go look at that, you can. he basically has worked with Luke Skywalker in the past. He's not a Force user, but he does believe in the teachings of the Jedi Order, and he has worked with Leia before and with Han before, so he is familiar with these people in the Star Wars universe. Right, so I'm just kind of setting this up for you guys.
Okay.
Painting the scene. Because this is information that we don't know going into the movie, but it's the first 30 seconds of the movie.
This is all new stuff to me too.
Exactly.
I don't know any of this stuff, so this is great.
I knew it was going to be. Once again, that's why I didn't tell you it. So this is really important information because it kind of puts into perspective the rest of the movie. Because Lor-San Tekka has a map fragment of where Luke may have gone. Now, you could kind of think of this map like Luke had multiple destinations along his journey that he was going to take, kind of like driving from one side of the United States to another. And they know where he will eventually end up. And the piece of the map that Lor-San Tekka has is where he will eventually end up. So it's really important information to have. Both the New Republic, the Resistance, and the First Order know that he has it. So the New Republic and the Resistance send Poe Dameron, who's a great character, to go get that map, and he puts it in BB-8 because the New Order shows up, First Order shows up, and he sends BB-8 off into the desert. So that's the start of the movie. That's what's going to set up the next 3 movies, this one scene alone, which is why I've spent so much time describing it. Is there anything in particular either of you noticed during that scene? Just anything.
Well, I mean, besides the stormtrooper acting all weird and anxious and not like a stormtrooper.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So I think my favorite part is just the very opening beginning. The thing that sold me the most right away was not even this scene in particular. It was right after the scroll, and I was like, okay, what are we pan down to? And it ended, and it panned down, and then it was planet, and then Star Destroyer. And it was beautiful. I was like, perfect. That's exactly...
And it was slow fade in Star Destroyers.
Exactly.
Silhouettes.
What you needed to do. Yeah. And then that was what I was really excited about. And then, out come the Stormtrooper pods, and then it takes you into that scene.
Yeah.
But that scene in particular...
There's one thing I was looking for you guys, which is that Lor-San Tekka clearly knows who Kylo Ren is. They have a little short spout conversation. By the way, I've seen this movie 3 times. 6, you've only seen it once, right?
I've only seen it twice.
Okay. Correct, okay. I've only seen it once.
Okay, just making sure. So, because I've seen it 3 times, once in IMAX 3D, which was amazing. just throwing that out there. I've picked up on his conversation that he has with Kylo, which is he looks at Kylo and Kylo says "Oh, you've become old, or you've aged, And Lor looks at him and says, "I know not who you are, but where you come from." Or I know who you are and where you come from, something along those lines. And you get the idea that he definitely has history with Kylo, and it makes a lot of sense that he does because he's worked with, once again, Leia and Luke. And Leia, obviously, is Kylo's mother, and Luke was training Kylo Ren. So because Lor knows about, Kylo, but here's the thing is he knows Kylo before he called himself Kylo Ren, or before he is known as Kylo Ren. That's one of the lines that he says. And he says, I knew you before you became this monster or became a something of the dark side, which is crazy. It's it gives you perspective, right at the beginning of the movie, who Kylo is. And you can tell that this old guy doesn't quite respect Kylo as a person. He just sees him as the monster. And I think that's really important. Because they right at the beginning of the movie, they give us all of this information, and we were just overloaded by information that we couldn't pick that apart right away.
I don't know if there was enough there. I mean, obviously there wasn't, because we had to read the art book to find out. But I mean, it might be something they elaborate on later.
Yeah.
But I would have appreciated a little bit more time to get to know him before he gets blasted.
He got killed right off the bat. I have a feeling he might be in Rogue One. We'll talk about that at the end, though. But there's a new movie coming out this year, 2016, this upcoming year.
Yeah.
They're sending. I'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, Rogue One, he might actually end up being in it, which would be kind of cool. We'll see. So this leads us into talking about who Rey is. So I think this is the biggest question in the movie. This is definitely the question that the movie itself asks, because like when Kylo is told that the droid has gone with a girl and he like rages out, what he says is, he says, "What girl?" And it's almost like he's hoping that it's not a very specific woman. And then even Maz, when they're at the Pirates Cove thing, asks Han Solo, like, who's the girl? And you get an idea that the movie is trying to really force that on you, of trying to figure out who she is. So before I get into a lot of detail here, who do you guys think that Rey is?
Well, I mean, the going rate is on that it's Luke's kid.
Yeah,
I would say, but
yeah,
I mean, that's
obvious.
Yeah, that's the thing that was prevalent to me, and I thought it as soon as the movie was going forward that's who it was. But I don't know. You got to enlighten us, wise master.
Well, what do you think, Garrett?
It's clearly Luke's daughter in some capacity, in some form.
Yeah,
she's related to Luke Skywalker.
I'm going to present you with two theories, and I want you guys to kind of tell me what you think. But the first is that the reason I started with that first scene is because it goes directly into this question. And Lorsan Tekka, I don't think was on Jakku just to be on Jakku. I think he was actually left there to watch over Rey in an Obi-Wan sense, because Obi-Wan was left on Tatooine to watch over Luke. Not to baby him, not to raise him or anything, but just to be there in case of anything. And I think Lorsan Tekka is the same idea, because this movie is basically A New Hope, and I wouldn't doubt that that's supposed to be a parallel to Obi-Wan watching over Luke. It's Lorsan trying to watch over her, which is why he probably had the map to where Luke Skywalker is, so when she became of age, he could reveal himself to her and give her that map. Those are just thoughts. I don't know. Did you guys have any thoughts on that? Like, is he or isn't he kind of an Obi-Wan wannabe?
Well, I mean, it did seem kind of predestined that this is how it would end up. I don't know if they intended it like that, or that's just how the movie was, directed. But it certainly seemed like it was set up like it.
It's
considering.
It's
calculating.
Shut up. I would say yes. I mean, that he is sort of that Obi-Wan figure, but it seems like he was just completely underutilized.
I felt like
capacity.
He died so fast.
It's like he died. Yeah, he's there. Well, it's like it's kind of the same thing. It's just like a sped up version, right? It's like they needed Obi-Wan for everything up until him shutting down the reactor, and then he didn't really have a point to be there, and so then he died. But Lore, what is his name? Lorsan Tekka? Yeah, Lore.
Yeah.
Lore gives him the map, and that's all he really needs to do. And he's also not a Jedi.
Nope.
So he just gets like, pew!
Just get direct, which actually does a really good job of setting up Kylo Ren as a bad guy, as a villain, because he just without a doubt,
that's a big whiny baby.
We'll get to that, but right from the get-go, Kylo is set up as a very powerful person because he does something we've never seen in the movies, which is he force stasises a blaster bolt, which is crazy cool.
Yeah, that was pretty rad. I totally thought he was going to let that bolt go and kill a person there, and I was highly disappointed that didn't happen.
Well, he did let it go. He just scared the crap out of Finn. Yeah,
I totally thought it was going to hit somebody, though.
Right. So to get back to the question, I think to start with asking who Rey is to start with the lightsaber vision sequence. Now this is really important because I gave you guys these images, and you can see there's one of Luke in Cloud City. Now he's sitting there. That's the first time that he fights Darth Vader. Well, when Rey picks up the lightsaber, that's the hallway she is in. So instantly it connects that the lightsaber is Luke's. Whether that connects her to Luke or not, I think that's an entirely different thing. So then it quickly moves to Luke kneeling down and touching R2-D2. Some people have suggested that he could be through his like mechanical hand giving R2-D2 the map of where Luke is about to go, because it's assumed that the light illuminating them may be the fire burning the dead Padawans, which we'll get to just in a second. But
wait, the Padawans are dead?
If you enhance on R2-D2's eyes, you can actually see them.
Wow. So you see
the
his
young
like
ones.
His hand touching. So I think it's more or less he's kind of consoling his friend R2-D2, like, crap, that sucked, that kind of thing, more so than transferring data, because that seems a little far-fetched. But that's a theory people had. The camera quickly flips. It starts raining in that scene and then quickly flips to a panning shot of Kylo Ren stabbing some guy and killing him. And then it does like an overhead shot of Kylo and what is assumed to be the Knights of Ren, which is a really cool like little shot, because around them are a ton of bodies of what you can easily assume are dead Padawans if you're taking this at face value, right? Then it like Kylo walks to her, to Rey in the vision, even though she's not actually there. And it like switches perspectives, and it shows a vision of Rey being left on Jakku and being left with the Unkar Plutt, which is the guy that is kind of taking the pieces off of her, the scavenger guy. Yeah. Remember him? Played by, what's his nut? Oh, crap. What's his name?
Pegg.
Simon Pegg. Thank you.
It's the only reason I'm here.
Yeah.
Apparently.
And then in that vision, a ship is leaving Jakku. It's fairly small. We know for a fact that it isn't a First Order ship because it looks kind of like a freighter. And then finally, at the end of the vision, it's a vision of the future on Starkiller Base in the snow, where Rey is about to fight Kylo. And then Rey freaks out, falls backwards out of the vision, and is completely terrified. And Maz is there to kind of like talk her through it. So that's the vision.
So let me ask you this question. Why would picking up the lightsaber trigger her own memories and also her own future?
See, that's the thing, isn't it? Right? That's the question that comes from this vision. Because it is Luke's lightsaber, and it is calling to her before she even goes down to see it. When she hears something and she goes down into the basement, what you're hearing is her screams of being left on Jakku. Which is interesting within itself, and that gives us a lot of insight onto who she might be.
Also, somehow, it has those memories or projections, like, because, I mean, he lost it in Cloud City.
He did, yeah.
Like, he lost it along with a hand in Cloud City.
Yep. So
it has not been with him for any amount of time, as far as I know. Unless he was rocking 2 when he was teaching Kylo and the rest of them.
No, because Maz has had it ever since it fell down. It says it in the visual novel. I put it in the picture for you guys that she went and found it from Cloud City. So he didn't have it, which means those visions of Luke with the burning Padawans, presumably, and then the death of all the Padawans from Kylo, you can assume that there's some weird connection between her and Luke, right? Like, could we gather that from that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would say, because it's showing sets of memories that like seem like they shouldn't be possible. Like having like if they were linked to the item, like if they were just linked to the lightsaber, like she should only be able to see that very first part where Luke fights Vader in the Cloud City hallway. Like that's the only thing she experienced. Like why would it also trigger her own memories? Why would she see stuff that the lightsaber probably wasn't there for?
Right, seeing the ship fly away. Like why would the saber see that?
There has to be something else here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the main evidence and the solid evidence that people are saying that she is Luke's daughter. The lightsaber calls to her. All of the connections here in the like, I guess, visions. It's interesting that she sees a vision of the future. I think that's really important to point out. But one thing that I had as a theory, but my theory has kind of fallen through, is when Kylo is standing over all the bodies and when he stabs the person right before that might be a vision of the future, because up until this point we have not seen the Knights of Ren, although we know they exist because Snoke references them. Which, by the way, if you go back and watch the trailer, and I provided you guys with a GIF that they won't see, but the Knights of Ren all have different weapons. None of them have a lightsaber. I think I should point that out. So the Knights of Ren could be Padawans that he has influenced, or they could be people that Snoke has provided for him. Because one has a blaster rifle, there's a dude with a staff, in the back there's a guy with like a huge cloud buster sword, which is rad, and
it's really rad. It's like a giant cleaver.
Yeah, it almost looks like a cricket bat.
Yeah, like a bloodborne weapon.
So there's a lot of theories there about who they are. But what I was thinking is like, oh, that could be from the future. That could be a vision of the future. But I really don't think it is. And the reason why I'm saying that is because people have pointed out, and the other image I provided you guys is there's a guy from the Nema outpost who's wearing this stupid hat. And the guy that that Kylo stabs in that vision looks like it could be this one dude from Nema Outpost, which is on Jakku, but that wouldn't make any sense. I just think that it was a Padawan wearing one of the stupid training hats that they had from Episode 3. Do you remember those? Like, yeah. Right before he killed the younglings.
The younglings.
Anyway, so that's just something that I had in mind. So that's a little bit of evidence there. I think that being a vision of the future is false, because then it quickly goes to a vision of the past. And I think the visions follow a specific order. I think it's obviously the stuff with Luke, which is way past, the stuff with the new Jedi Order that Luke was establishing. Then after that, she gets left on Jakku. Then after that, she faces down Kylo. And I think it follows a very specific set of thoughts there. But in that vision, we haven't mentioned that we hear the voice of Yoda, we hear Luke, we hear Darth Vader breathing, and we hear Obi-Wan on 2 occasions. The first is he yells Rey, which I'll get back to. And then at the end, he says, like, these are your first steps, right at the end. And those are both Obi-Wan. I don't know if that has any effect on who her daughter, or who she could be as a daughter, but it definitely means that there is a lot of Force connection there. Do you guys remember any other voices? Those are the ones that I can pick up on.
No. I mean, only seen the movie once. It's hard to pick up all these voices.
Yeah, I've seen the movie twice, and I didn't even know Yoda was in there.
Yeah, he's in there at one point.
I wasn't listening hard enough, I guess. Right. Got caught up in the moment.
That's fine. I'm sure a lot of our viewers are like, oh yeah, you're right. There was Yoda's voice and stuff like that. So the final evidence that she is Luke's daughter is, there's 2 pieces. The first is when she's being mind probed by Kylo, and he says, I see you envisioning an ocean or something like that. And he says, yes, I see it. I see the island. That's clear reference to the end of the movie when she finds Luke on an island in the middle of an ocean. So one thing that we can gather from that and stuff that we know within the Star Wars universe is that the Force tends to draw people together, especially those who are related. So that's a pretty good evidence that she's his daughter. And then finally, at the end of the movie, when Luke is looking at her and she's holding out the lightsaber, he is not looking at the lightsaber. He is looking at her. It's very clear that he recognizes her. He knows who she is, and he begins to tear up. And I think because of that, we can safely assume that it's his daughter. Yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's like 98%.
Fair game.
Let me present you with an alternative theory, which I do not.
No, I don't want any more theories.
No, this one's an interesting, which is that it's Obi-Wan's granddaughter. Yeah, I don't know if anything sparks off of that for you guys, but people have come up with some reasonable evidence.
Who's Obi-Wan's kid to begin with, let alone granddaughter?
That's where it gets murky, right?
Who did Obi-Wan bang, then have a kid with, who then had another kid?
That we have no knowledge of.
It's too many generations missing here.
Exactly, and I completely dismiss it because at the end of episode 3, Obi-Wan is really against Anakin and Padme's relationship. Even though he supports the two of them, he's against the relationship, and he can easily see what that whole thing led to. So the verdict is that it's probably unlikely, but some people have some pretty okay evidence that she might be his granddaughter. I don't know.
Dude, also, girl with the droid, dude with the droid.
It's clear parallels here, right?
Like, come on.
Yeah.
So,
like, she even speaks droid.
Yeah. That's very true.
Me? She lives on a desert planet. She speaks droid. Like,
that's very true.
Some scavenger.
So there's some theories that she might be like as to who she is outside of relations to other people. She might be the sole survivor of the attack on Luke's Jedi Order. Whether she was hidden or maybe she just wasn't there. But people are saying that she could have been left on Jakku by Luke, and maybe he force mind wiped her. What do you guys think of that? Is that maybe that's why she doesn't remember anything?
This is getting out there.
Getting left on a desert planet would probably be traumatizing for any child.
Yeah, maybe she was just too young to remember what happened either.
Yeah, or that as well.
And then other people are.
Do we ever? We see young Rey, but I don't remember about how young she was. Right?
She was like. It was
in one of those
the actress. She must have been about 6, I would say. So, I mean, in my memory, I can remember back to like vaguely 6 years old. So,
and if you spend like 15, like 10ish years on a desert planet,
yeah, you could easily forget that.
Most other things.
Other people were saying that maybe she was left on Jakku by her mother, and if that's the case, maybe it's that Luke just got up and left after the tragedy happened at the New Jedi Order, and just went on his journey and left her with her mother, and then she just dropped her off on Jakku and just left. Like, that's a possibility too. Anyways, all we know is that Lor San Tekka was probably left there to keep an eye on her, and then we get the movie out of that. So verdict is that probably Luke's daughter, very unlikely that she's Obi-Wan's granddaughter. Now, the rest of the questions will go pretty quickly because that's actually like the deepest question of them all. But it does go right into where the heck Luke has been and why the heck did he leave. We know that he left because he took on the responsibility that is the death of all the Padawans that he was training, because he was training a new generation of Jedi. Most of them were very, very young, and we don't know the events will probably be explained in episode 8, where Kylo was being trained to some degree. We know that at the end of the Jedi trials, that's when you make your lightsaber. He probably felt like he was ready. Luke did not feel like he was ready, and at this point he was probably already being influenced by Snoke and pulled an Anakin. Made his own back. Yeah, exactly. Made his own lightsaber, which is why it's unstable. And there's the image that I have there at the end of the album for you guys, where it shows his lightsaber, and it shows that it's very unstable, using an unstable crystal, not a created crystal, because a lot of the Sith crystals are synthetic and are made, whereas the Jedi crystals are grown. This one is a grown crystal. It's just highly unstable, which is an interesting thing. But he needs the crossguard on his lightsaber to channel some of the extra energy out because of the unstable nature of it. And then,
is that why?
Yeah, it's all in this cool little picture that you can look through.
There's an amazing like little subtext note, like blip thing on the side, and it says accusing finger reinforces unquestioned authority.
Yeah. Anyway, so we can assume that he killed all of them after being influenced by Snoke. Luke takes it upon himself that that's his responsibility, so he gets up and leaves. And we know that he's searching for the first Jedi temple, and that's really important. But I'll get back to that in a second. I just remembered. I forgot one image, which is an image out of the book. They released the book as like a movie, like the whole movie as in book form. And there was one line, if you guys go back to the Rey album.
Oh, yeah, I saw this one.
There's one line in there that is not in the movie that I can remember after seeing it 3 times, which is during the fight at the end of the movie between Kylo and Rey, right before she pulls the lightsaber out of the snow. The thing here, it says, taken aback, he, which is Kylo, whirled to see the weapon land in the hand of the girl standing by a tree. Rey appeared equally shocked that her reach for a device had exceeded his. She gazed down at the weapon, now resting in her grip, and then Kylo Ren says, "It is you." So it says Ren murmured, "It is you." And then for her, his words unsettled her. Not for the first time. He seemed to know more about her than she did. So it's kind of, you're led to believe that he probably knew who she was, because she probably was the lone survivor of the attack on the Padawans and was saved in some degree. And he, throughout the movie, when he asks, like, what girl, and when he's talking to her later, he probably knows that she's more than likely the lone survivor. So we can assume that. Anyways, enough on that. So Luke takes off, and in the movie, they give us a map, but the map is at a weird angle, and if you compare it to the canonical map that they came out with, there is a lot of information there. The thing that we can take out of it is that the line that they give us in the movie on their map that they pull up leads to Rakata Prime, which is in the unknown regions. Now, this is kind of interesting stuff because this gets into KOTOR lore, which is all of the Old Republic.
Do remember the Rakata.
So, if he's looking for the first Jedi Temple, the first Jedi Temple was probably established by the Rakata, because the Rakata were some of the first Force users in the galaxy. Right? So this is where it gets a little hazy, because they're getting into territory that they have not established as canonical, which is that of the Old Republic story. So if he is on Rakata Prime, which is a part of the canonical lore, like it is on their map of stuff, then we can start kind of taking that as an assumption that that's where he is, and we can look at the island from the movie that he is on, which is really pretty, by the way. I think I'm going to need to make a pilgrimage to Scotland to go there.
Is that where it's at, Scotland?
Amazing. Yeah, it's off the coast of Scotland.
So close with that New Zealand guess.
Yeah, the opposite side of the world. Anyway, so they can...
no, it's shorter if you go through.
Oh, yes, there you go. So you can then kind of take that as that's where they're at, which means you can take images of Rakata Prime from the history. So we have one from KOTOR, which is an old image with what's his name, Karth on it. We have a kind of a detailed concept image. And then you can take the image from SWTOR, because they did a trip to Rakata Prime there. So, I mean, if you compare the images, it does kind of look like what they're going with. I don't know. It looks like a similar planet, so we can assume that he's probably on Rakata Prime. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
No, this is way out of my realm of crap. I know.
I don't buy it. I've never seen a Star Wars planet defined by more than one feature.
It's true. That is very true.
This has got earth and water. I don't know. I don't know.
Jungle.
I've never seen so much green in the galaxy before. Or I never knew there was so much green in the galaxy.
Why don't you go to Endor, lady?
It's pretty jungly in like the actual like old like KOTOR stuff, but this one obviously is like Scotland, so it's like more mossy and like grassy. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that there are some palm trees somewhere else on this planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can easily change that because the KOTOR stuff is not canon, right? Or is presumed to be not canon. They haven't put it in one section or the other. But there is certainly a lot of KOTOR in this movie. We'll get to that at the end. But
okay, good.
Yeah, I'm saving that. So, well, what if it is Rakata Prime? There is some nice information here that we can get, which is that there's probably natural growing lightsaber crystals that they can use. So we might potentially get some really cool lightsaber colors, because in, canonical stuff, we typically only see like green, yellow, blue, and red, and purple, I guess.
Purple.
But in like at the extended universe, in the past, and more prevalent in KOTOR stuff and in the video games, you see a lot different lightsaber colors, like white and black, and like
orange,
black core,
yellow,
orange. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. So we could, if it is Rakata Prime, we might get some really cool lightsabers out of it. Just a thought, right? I would like that.
I would too. I mean, there was one guy, I can't remember, Plo Koon or something.
Right.
I can't remember if he was ever, I think he was like in for like 10 seconds in episode 2 or something, and he had an orange lightsaber, and I was like, lightsabers are red.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. There, a lot of those Jedi in episode 2 had some weird lightsabers, which is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can assume that it's Rakata Prime just based on where it is on their canonical map, where it is in the movie where they showed us, and some features potentially. Plus, it would make sense if we're going off KOTOR lore that it is the first Jedi temple would be on Rakata Prime. We can assume that. I think it's pretty safe.
I mean, assuming that the Jedi was an organization made by the Rakata.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if it isn't Rakata Prime, he's still in the unknown reaches, which means we might get some unknown stuff, which is nice.
Equally
cool.
as
But
cool.
I mean, the first Jedi temple has got to be like around there somewhere, right?
Yeah, you would assume.
Like, just not like on the planet itself, maybe, but
Yeah.
a couple systems or whatever.
Okay, moving on. While we still can, let's talk about Kylo being able to be defeated at the end of the movie. A lot of people were really, really kind of pissed off coming out of the movie, like, oh, how could Rey and Finn defeat Kylo, who's clearly been training as a Sith?
He was shot in the gut.
That's the first thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the first thing on my list. Is firstly, he was shot by a freaking bowcaster. That's literally what it says on my list.
That they spent like 2 separate scenes demonstrating the power of.
By blowing stormtroopers like 40 feet away with a mere shot.
With Han Solo.
I like this.
Yeah. And then Kylo takes a hit and just kneels down. It's like, okay.
I got this.
So, in the book, it is made more clear when he's fighting Finn that he's toying with him. He's like super toying with Finn. He thinks it's fun. And when Finn gets that lucky like blade shot off on him and just like nicks his arm, that's when Kylo kind of says, okay, enough of this, and he just beats him down real quick. Which is
it wasn't as clear in the movie.
Yeah, when you look at it, knowing that information, and you watch the movie again, you're like, oh my gosh, it's so clear that he is just toying with, because he's like spinning his lightsaber around and he's kind of like hitting other things. Yeah. And then also something to keep note of there with the wound, the bowcaster wound, is he keeps smacking the wound. You guys notice that?
Yeah.
Kinda, like,
I thought that
it.
was strange. I didn't understand
A lot of
that.
people did, but this is going to put it into context. He's hitting the wound to generate pain that he can try to feed off of.
Yes. I knew that was the reason.
Yeah, because there's no other way for him to really, because he has a hard time. They make it very clear in the movie that he's corruptible to the light side still. And when Snoke, and this again is something we'll talk about later, in the visual novel, it's a little excerpt from Snoke says that Snoke believes that Kylo is the perfect embodiment of both the light side and the dark side of the Force. Which means if he really wanted to generate that dark-sided, he'd kind of have to generate pain because he has a hard time doing that in general. Which we'll talk about that again in just a second. But also when fighting Rey, the reason he is defeated by her is he doesn't want to kill her. Snoke made it really clear to bring him and the girl back. Like, just bring the girl back because she's really powerful and we want to train her as a Sith, which is why he offers it to her. And then she goes full light-sided and just like whoops him down real quick. So it kind of makes sense that he's defeated. Is there anything else you guys noticed from that?
No, it's just I was always wondering about him whacking himself because I'm not that clever and I didn't pick up on that. So
yeah,
that's pretty interesting.
It makes that scene way more badass when you put that in context.
It makes it seem a lot more normal than him just whacking himself.
Yeah. Also, that whole lightsaber fight was amazing.
Excuse me.
It was so visceral and real, and like it felt like you were there, and it was actually two people trying to kill each other with lightsabers.
My space laser swords.
Yeah, exactly.
I immediately got the impression that Finn stood no chance. I mean, it was pretty well established earlier when Finn got defeated by this movie's greatest hero, which is Tonfa Nunchuck Stormtrooper Man.
That guy was amazing.
Why is nobody talking about this? Can we get some groundswell around Tonfa Nunchuck Stormtrooper Man?
Dude, seriously. Just go to the Star Wars subreddit. They love him.
So he rules, and he defeated Finn earlier in the movie with the fucking laser Tonfa. Whatever. What chance does he have against the guy who can literally stop blaster bolts? Like,
yeah, no kidding.
Like, obviously, just messing with him, and it's obvious as soon as he takes him out, he just cuts his like right butt cheek off, and just he's down.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy swing he goes up the back with.
A mechanical thing I noticed that I was really impressed with. It's just like a side note kind of thing. There's a part where Rey runs up the side of a rock and like jumps over Kylo, and she does this roll, and they paid enough attention to have her turn off and on her lightsaber. So she turns it off when she's rolling, and then turns it back on as soon as she gets back up. And you can see it happen, and I was like, that is an amazing attention to detail.
I would have sliced half my body in half. Yeah, I'd be dead.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we all would have.
Yeah,
that you're right. That is really good detail, and that pays a lot of homage to JJ's ability there, because he saw that and made sure that it was there.
Details.
Because he knew that fucking nerds like me would freak out if it wasn't real enough.
So two more things.
Space laser swords.
Before we start running into time constraints here, the two more things about this. First is that when Kylo kills Han Solo in the book, it's made really clear. Look, I told you at the beginning of this thing. When Kylo kills Han Solo, takes the bowcaster blast, he kneels down, and in the book, there is a moment of reflection that Kylo has where Kylo realizes that after killing Han Solo, he should feel more powerful. But he, in fact, makes a note mentally in the book that he does not feel more powerful. He, in fact, feels much weaker, which also leads to him losing to Finn and Rey, which is a really important little detail that they can't put in the movie because it's really difficult to portray that, but it's really nice to know.
Yeah, it's hard to portray without making it too obvious.
Yeah. But it's cool because you're like, okay, obviously he's still feeling the light side if he kills his dad and realizes like, oh, that hurt. That was not good.
Yeah, I shouldn't kill my dad.
Yeah.
I should not have done that.
Well, crap, now I'm regretting that.
Take it back.
And then finally, at the end, Kylo clearly hasn't finished his training, as we heard from Snoke, that, bring Kylo back, he must finish his training, which means that he's not completely trained in the ways of a lightsaber. And Rey clearly has close quarter combat skills with using her staff, mostly her entire life. And even when you watch that fight again, you'll notice that when she's using the lightsaber, she's fighting like it's a staff. And that's a really important note to take if you have any disbelief that they could beat Kylo, because that's the way she's fighting, and it's pretty clear that she's pretty good with that damn staff.
Yeah,
it's never much doubt.
So going into the last little bit here, which is, I would say it's the second to last question, but it might be the question that I find most intriguing about the movie, which is what exactly was the awakening, and also who is Finn? Because, and I told you guys this before, it's an interesting thought on the movie where you assume that the Force Awakening has to do with the Force Awakening within Rey, but when Kylo and Supreme Leader Snoke are talking, and Snoke says, "There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?" And Kylo says, "Yes." At that point in the movie, the only thing that has changed, and the only thing that has happened, is that Finn has escaped as a stormtrooper with Poe. They land on the planet. Finn meets up with Rey, finds the droid. They both take off in the Millennium Falcon, and then they meet up with Han Solo and Chewbacca. At that point in the movie, that's all that has happened. The most prominent thing that has happened is Finn has done the impossible, which is to somehow break the conditioning that the stormtroopers are going through, because they're no longer using clones; they're using actual people that they pull from families, like as children, which is really sad. So we can,
a la Game of Thrones.
yeah, we can say that in the trailer that we had for the movie, we were assuming that Finn is the one with the Force powers, because that's the one that they show with the lightsaber. But they red herringed us, and in the movie, it's Rey with the Force powers. But what if Finn is the one also with Force powers? He just doesn't know it yet, because that would make a lot more sense for the Force Awakening if it's not just happening with one person, but with two, and especially at that point in the movie when the two evil people are talking about it, that Finn is the only one that has kind of awakened at that point. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense just from the title of the movie, like you said, that it's not just one person, it's all of, the light side or whoever.
Yeah.
It would make way more sense. So it does follow in that sense that, yes, Finn probably has some kind of capabilities.
I mean, it feels like we can extrapolate the awakening portion to like
a broad sense.
Most of the movie in general. So like I feel like we can apply it a lot to like everything in some manner to the movie. Finn, like maybe potentially is Force sensitive. Maybe that's the joke that he's using the lightsaber, but he sucks with it.
Maybe.
And
Yeah.
He's still actually Force sensitive, and he's not. He's not going to lose any more ninja nunchuck laser tonfa guys.
Well, here's the thing with it too. Well, we know that Finn clearly has a connection to the light side of the Force, because when at the very first scene that we discussed, he would not kill the villagers. He could not bring himself to, as he says, to kill for those people. So, is he connected to the Force then?
I mean, maybe potentially. But I mean, the Empire also probably doesn't have a great track record with evil experiments.
That's true. He also makes a mention when he's talking to Poe, which is a really great scene, where he's talking to Poe, and Poe's like, why are you breaking me out of here? And Finn says, because it's the right thing to do. And I think to some degree he believes that. He believes that it is the right thing to do. But
and
then
he also says, because you need a pilot.
And he goes, because I need a pilot. Yeah. that's a great little...
Because he's very cowardly, like, early on.
He is, yeah. I mean, we hear it from Maz, which is, in his eyes, is a man who wants to run. And I think that's also pretty indicative of describing who Finn is. Also shown on a holo monitor on the Star Destroyer, when they're talking about how he's getting away, or how it's him who got Poe away, you see briefly on the holo monitor, and keep in mind that it's backwards, because we're looking through it, where the guy's looking at it. You see two older people, and then you see a child. So you can assume that they're looking at the two parents, so they know who his parents are, that they stole the baby away from. They're looking at him as a child. So maybe the First Order knew that his parents had Force powers, which maybe would explain why he was promoted from sanitation on Starkiller Base to field duty. That seems like a weird promotion. Maybe they thought that he would be really good or powerful or something, so they promoted him up. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. What does the Empire even consider sanitation? Like,
don't they have droids for that?
Cleansing a village on Jakku? Like,
it could be. Yeah.
Purging.
But you get the feeling that people have been keeping an eye on him, just from the little conversations that happen when he switches.
Well, they said, even then though, they're like, oh, it was his first offense.
First offense, yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason I say keeping an eye on him, because when, and this might have something to do with Force connection, when Kylo's getting back on the ship at the beginning of the movie, he looks over at Finn and just stares at him. And just, there's like a weird connection there that, like, oh, he knows something is up there.
Well, I mean, he was the first person to successfully find Stormtrooper blood.
I didn't think about that, but it might be very true.
I don't think there's ever been another place in any of the movies where a Stormtrooper has bled or displayed blood.
Nobody has displayed blood, I think.
Except when it just got, like, slapped, like, unceremoniously on Finn's face.
Yeah. And
is that a literal heavy-handed, like, there's blood? There's blood in his past. Terrible, deadly blood. Old blood.
Well, either way, in episode 8 be explained that he might actually have Force powers. Like maybe he wakes up, Rey feels him wake up, says, I need to go back for this guy. I told him I would. Then for some reason they feel a connection, and all of a sudden Luke is like, wait, does this guy have Force powers? Because you're feeling a connection with him. Like it might be something like that. I don't know. Maybe.
What is the significance of Finn continuously and keeping Poe's jacket?
Just to show their bro love? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just that he's trustworthy, I guess.
That's all it is.
Okay, let's get into the last topic, which is my favorite one.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, who is Snoke? Because I have, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, I think I know who Snoke is.
Yes.
And I've
We've all heard the mountain of very convincing evidence.
Yes, I've given you guys a lot of evidence for this, and I will present it to the audience now, which is that I have, without a shadow of a doubt, believe that Snoke is Darth Plagueis. Now, we've heard about Plagueis before. Plagueis, whatever, shut up. It's the same thing. Plagueis. Is that how he pronounced it in that clip?
Doesn't matter at this point. We've said every single one.
So, Darth Plagueis is a guy...
Darth Archipelago.
who was described by Palpatine in episode 3. And it's this cool little scene. You can go look it up. Just go, like, YouTube the tale of Darth Plagueis. Literally, it's Plagueus, I think.
Euiies.
There we go. So you can look that up. But it's this tale that he tells Anakin. He says, have you ever heard the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise? And he says that he's a guy who could, or learned how to, through the powers of the dark side, manipulate midichlorians to create life. And he also was able to prevent his loved ones from dying. And he was so afraid of losing his power that ironically one day he did, because Palpatine killed him, because it was his master. And the Padawan basically killed the master. Normal Sith stuff. But what if because he was, experimenting with the fact that he could prevent death, did not in fact die? And it would make a lot of sense when we start looking at the very limited, not canonical images of Plagueis, which is the fact that he's kind of weird, and you can assume that the image of Snoke that we saw is very decrepit, and it's like he's missing part of his cheek. So like, there's a lot of stuff that you can say, like, what if he was dead for like a week and then came back because of midichlorians? you could make that argument. Or maybe he's
a zombie
didn't die.
Vader.
Well, maybe he was just like normal emperor, didn't die, was immortal, and came back in some other decrepit form, but is weak, which is why when Palpatine is doing his thing with the Empire, and Plagueis knows this, which is why he knows that he's in a weakened form, doesn't want to confront Palpatine, knowing that Palpatine will probably make a mistake. He dies due to Luke. Then now it's time. Now that within the shadow of the Empire, Plagueis can come back and do his thing. Like to me, that makes a lot of sense. It makes the most sense about who Snoke is. And I have other evidence too. The strong evidence.
Too strong.
Yeah, very strong. That's kind of the thing. Which is the first bit is that oh gosh, how do I want to go through this? Give me a second. Right, so Plagueis was strong with the Force. We know this from the story, which means that would explain why Kylo has some pretty cool Force powers, like Force stasis and mind probing, stuff that we haven't seen before. Because he would train him in that kind of stuff. Also, the thing with the... Now, I showed you guys this recently, as in just like right before we started recording. But in the episode 3, right when Palpatine is talking about Plagueis, he says his little bit, but the music starts playing, and we all know that John Williams is the glue that holds Star Wars together. Well, the theme that plays...
John Williams determining true canon here.
It could be.
In episode 7.
But it could just be just an intentional production thing, where the music that is playing during that is absolutely the same music. It's different because it's updated, right? But it's the exact same like dark choral stuff. It's the same notes. It's everything that the Snoke theme is. So if you go to like the official, you could go to the YouTube for it and just find the Snoke theme and listen to it, and then listen to the theme that's playing during that story, and it's perfect. Like, I think that would make a lot of sense. Not to mention the fact that it's Darth Plagueis the Wise, and when we're at the Han Solo Kylo Ren scene, Han Solo says Snoke is just using you for your power, and when he's through with you, he'll crush you and you know it. And the only thing that Kylo responds with is, Supreme Leader Snoke is wise. This is like the first time anybody's ever been referred to that, aside from Darth Plagueis. There's just like, there's infinite,
so much info.
Yeah, there's infinite stuff here. But the most prominent and my favorite piece of information here, because it has to do with Rey Bay, is that Snoke's main, or not Snoke, but Plagueis' main weapon in the not canon, but probably now canon stuff, has been a saber staff, which is a staff with two like mini lightsabers at the end. And if you look at Rey's staff, it looks just like his. It's amazing how similar it is. To the point where recently, while looking at the Disney Infinity toys, where Rey is mentioned and she has her staff and everything, it is literally the exact same staff that Snoke has. Not to mention the fact that when they're doing the mocap, there's a behind the scenes image of crap, I don't remember his name. The guy who does Golem. You guys remember his name?
Nope.
No, well, he's the voice of Snoke. There's a behind the scenes image of him holding a staff, so we can assume that, that's a good indicator. But that was from The Force Awakens, so it might be just like a reference thing that they were doing. I don't know. Either way, I believe Rey's weapon is in fact a lightsaber staff. May very well, in fact, be Snoke's lightsaber staff. And she has it, or is about to become a lightsaber staff from some description. Like, there's a lot of evidence for that.
Awesome. It's like Darth Maul all over again.
Except not a two-handed thing or a two-bladed thing.
Yeah.
It would be two-bladed, but they're like short lightsabers at the end, which make a lot more sense.
Is it two-bladed or is it just on one end?
It's on two. It's supposed to be on two.
Is it? Oh. That'd be way cooler if it was just like a battle axe lightsaber kind of deal.
I mean, and if you guys go back to that Rey image that I have in the Rey album, there is that image where the light or the staff is like right in front of her face, and that staff doesn't just look like a staff, like a wooden staff that you would expect.
No.
It's technological.
It looks like
Well, the
metalish.
implication is that she found like some like rod or something while she was scavenging.
Yeah. It feels too convenient for it not to be.
I mean, I spent a lot of time looking at it in my second watch through.
Nailed it.
And I mean, it looks a lot like a lot of the saber designs. I mean, like I've seen a lot of like similar parts, especially in Darth Maul stuff.
Yeah.
And I think in some of like the older like other Jedi, not like Episode 2 Jedi, lightsabers, like those unique ones like Plo Koon and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally think it's either his lightsaber staff or they're just going to give her a lightsaber staff. And it would be funny if Luke this entire time gets his lightsaber back and it's just like, you didn't notice that the staff we gave you when you were a child is you never pushed this like button, this hidden button or something. I don't know.
You didn't touch this right here?
Yeah, I love that he's gonna like blow dust off of it and like smack it a couple times. It's gonna be like boop, boop, boop.
Yeah, and she's gonna be like, oh. I think that would be a cool little reveal though.
I made this.
Exactly. So let's wrap it up. There's a few other things, just minor things to talk about that I think is really cool, which is I think it's really cool that when you watch it a second time, you see that Han saw his death coming from a mile away. Like there's a little
he had to.
Yeah, there was a little thing between him and Leia where right before she says her line, basically he says that we lost our son forever. He believes he's gone, right? He knows that Kylo's not coming back. But Leia then says, if you see our son, bring him back. And it zooms in on his face, and you can see the face of anguish. He knows that if he tries to, which he will, for her, because you could clearly see that he still has feelings for her. If he tries to, he knows it's going to result in his death, or either one of their deaths. And
it was so sad.
Yeah, when he yells Ben, it's just, you feel it. You feel that emotion. You know that he knows it's coming. It's crazy good.
I mean, I could tell he was dead the moment he walked out onto a thing with no railing.
Yeah.
That was
like
the end.
The moment the railing was gone, I was like, he's gonna fall off of it, either dead or alive. He's gonna fall off of it because there's no railing there, and every other place has a railing because that makes sense.
This is a setup.
This little tiny catwalk is only big enough for one person that just inexplicably like spans the gigantic gap.
Yeah, like who made this walkway? Who? The same engineers that made the ladders in Dying Light.
No, the guy who made this catwalk is the guy who is on some huge Empire retainer who built the like Death Star controls for the guys who have no railing on the Death Star next to the laser.
That like highly radioactive, probably laser.
Yeah, you remember the guys with the big shovel helmets, and they just had no railing next to their control panel.
What a jerk.
They said we'd be leaning on it all day.
So, there's that. There's also the lighting in that scene, which is really nice to know, because in like 5 minutes prior, when the X-Wings are doing their thing, Poe says, he says, as long as there is light, there is hope. And then it goes into that scene where like the light is shining down on Han Solo and on Kylo Ren, and then half of Kylo's face is red and half of it is blue, and as soon as that light goes out, it's all red, and you just know, you get that sinking feeling what's about to happen. And that scene is just so freaking good. The cinematography, like J.J. Abrams deserves a round of applause for that scene alone.
Dude, the moment they zoomed out to show the stupidly constructed bridge, the first time, I immediately leaned over to the person next to me and I was like, I like this shot. I like this camera shot.
It's so good.
Like immediately, I liked it.
And the only reason the light is like that is because Finn and Rey come running in from the top, which is really cool. There's also a nice little other detail about jackets. It seems kind of weird, but when Han Solo and Chewbacca and them are coming into Starkiller Base and they're going down the elevator, it was the scene prior that Chewbacca says, his thing, and then Han Solo goes, "Oh, and you're cold," and makes like a reference. Yeah. It's really funny, but clearly Han Solo's the cold one out of the two of them. Well, he throws his jacket down on the ground, and when they're going back up the elevator, there's this like little subtle thing where Chewbacca leans over, picks up the jacket, and hands it back to Han Solo, knowing like, you're going to be cold. And I really liked that. Not only that,
I won't be.
But Finn has got some moves, man, because they go out into the snow, and when they run into one of the areas that Rey has to like pull some random bit out of to open all these doors for Han Solo, she has Finn's jacket on, and you're like, aw, that's cute. I like that a lot. Speaking of the two of them, my favorite part of the movie, and I've told you guys this before, is that throughout the entire movie, it's established that Rey has always been left behind. She was left behind on Jakku. There's the moment where Finn decides to leave when they're on the pirate thing. So she's being left behind, which is why she's really emotional there. And that's, part of the reason why she kind of like runs away. But at the end, when they're on Starkiller Base and they come back in to get her, she is really surprised. She looks at Finn. She says, "You came back for me." Super shocked. She gives him a hug. Chewbacca says his thing, and he's like, "What did he say?" And she says that it was your idea to come back for me. And it's like this cool little touching moment, because at the end of the movie,
oh, so sweet.
Yeah, when she leaves to go find Luke, she says to him, like, we'll see each other again, or something like that, or I'll come back for you, and this I promise, or this I know, something along those lines. It's this cool little moment where she's been forgotten her entire life. Finally, someone has come back for her, and then she's got like this inseparable bond with this person, and I like that. It's such a good little detail. Is there anything in the movie that you guys found that was like that just like really stood out to you?
Well, in my one watch through, I didn't pick up all this stuff. But no, not really.
Okay.
I have to see it again, I guess.
A lot of it kind of really has it in for me. Like when R2-D2, when you get the fake out early on,
yeah,
they're like, no, he's in low power mode for seemingly forever, and then
he can't be brought back.
Then he comes back.
Which, by the way,
that was really good.
He only wakes up once Rey is on that planet. She wasn't on that planet before. She comes in at the end of the movie, and suddenly he wakes up. Thoughts?
Ooh.
Wait, no, they have to.
Because they go get Rey, they bring her back, and then that's when R2-D2 wakes up. Is once they're back on the
yeah,
Rebel
because he's
base.
on the Rebel base. Yeah.
Oh, you mean that Rey is on the Rebel base? Gotcha.
Yeah, because she was on Starkiller. She finally gets to
Yeah.
the planet that the rebellion is on, and that's when R2-D2 wakes up. I don't know, more evidence for the whole Luke Skywalker thing, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's too easy.
Too easy.
But yeah, just, I mean, losing Han Solo obviously is a pretty serious tragedy. Not real happy with that, obviously. But
at the same time, you kind of feel like it had to happen.
Yeah, like I understand, because you have to lose the mentor character. You have to lose the Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the Obi-Wan Kenobi of this particular film was Han Solo this time.
And to some
not
degree,
the actual Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I think it's essential for Kylo Ren's character development for him to kill him. Because
just then throw a temper tantrum.
Yeah, because now he feels like, oh, I'm weaker for that. And that may be the thing that later on in maybe episode 9, probably, that he's going to turn back to the light side for.
What if like Kylo Ren becomes like the perfect light plus dark infusion? Like he can't get angry enough to like make force lightning, but he also like can't get calm enough to like mind persuade people.
Or, he's just the perfect embodiment of both the light side and the dark side, which is just like freaking Revan. Holy crap, this movie has a lot of KOTOR in it. Did you guys notice any of the KOTOR stuff? Like the fact that he looks like Revan?
Yeah, other than the fact that he looks like Revan and
like almost exactly.
Wears like
helmet.
Fucking crazy Jedi robes like Revan, and also
is going between the light and the dark side.
Has an old lightsaber that he probably like found an archive for at the Jedi Temple.
Oh, hey, let's not forget about Rakata Prime and the fact that at the end, when Rey is leaving to go find Luke, the outfit she is wearing is very, very like Bastilla from KOTOR. It's like that whole outfit design is very KOTOR, and I'm like, ugh, they're doing it. They're giving me what I wanted. So good. Also, this entire movie is A New Hope. It's just a remake of A New Hope, which is perfect.
Yep. Seemed like it.
It's homage, cretin.
So let's wrap it up. So this has been a really good movie. I cannot wait for the rest of them. The good news is that Disney is putting out a Star Wars movie every year until they decide to stop doing Star Wars. So next year, or this year, 2016, we're getting Rogue One, which is going to be cool. That's going to be the story of how they stole the plans for the Death Star at the beginning, like back in episode 4, which is going to be great. I can't wait for that. We might get a little bit more Force Awakens story out of there. Probably doubt it, but maybe. Also, after that, we're getting episode 8 in 2017. 2018, we're getting, I think, the Bounty Hunter movie, which would be really cool. Then we get episode 9, and then we get the young Han Solo film, which will be really cool. And that's just from what we know right now. We'll probably have more information as we get further in this year and get to Rogue One and everything. But I'm excited.
Super excited.
Also,
so much Star Wars.
So many Star Wars games coming out, which is why I said that we're going into a golden age of Star Wars.
And I picked up KOTOR 2 for like $3. So there's
yes,
that.
You can finally do that, yeah.
I feel like we're premature at calling things golden ages. I feel like it's gotta be like a longer period of time.
I gotta be able to point back to this video and be like, I said it.
I just don't want to exaggerate.
Fine. I'll take that. I can take it. Any last thoughts on The Force Awakens other than that it was an amazing movie?
I need to see it again, apparently.
Yeah, you do. I've seen it 3 times, bro.
I got nothing.
No? Okay. Well, if anyone has any comments that they want to share, please put a spoiler tag and then like hit enter like 20 times, so that way it doesn't show up for people just going through the comments. Or alternatively, you could just send us private messages if you want to discuss some things. Twitter is a good way to do it as well. It keeps the people who are just clicking on the movie, the video, even though it says spoiler on it, from getting spoilers. But with that being said, I can't wait for this next year. The Star Wars stuff is going to be amazing, and it's with this that I'm going to sneakily announce something, which is that this next year on the channel is going to be what we're calling the Year of Star Wars, and we're doing a lot of Star Wars playthroughs, including Republic Commando, KOTOR, possibly KOTOR 2 if we get around to it, and some other really great Star Wars games. And I've briefly talked to you two about it, have you two join me on a few of those, which would be really, really fun. I'll, Alien Isolation, except have it way less latency because we have a new way of doing it. Yeah, you guys down for that?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, cool. Well, with that, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See you guys.
Bye.